Hello everyone, today we will look at a power DPS Mechanist build that is very good for group content like raids, strike missions, fractals and such. And we will do that with a very simple rotation. We are using full berserker armor, weapons and trinkets. For the armor we are using full scholar runes. For the weapons we will use mace pistol and rifle. Mace pistol will be your main weapon and rifle will be only used in certain situations, as I will explain later. The sigils on both sets will be the same. We will use force and air on both weapons. And I also have a guide that shows you how to gear up any character from scratch with very cheap and easy sources to get for everyone. I will leave the link for it in the description below. The food we will use will be the steak with winterberry sauce. And if you want to use ascended food, you will use the same version, but the one that will give you 66% lifesteal. For the utility, the one that will give you the most DPS will be Red of Masterful Strength, but as you can see, it's not exactly cheap. So you should only save it in situations where DPS is really important, like for example raids or strike CMs or things like this. For normal situations, we will use the Red of Calculated Strength. This is a little bit cheaper, or if it was still a little bit expensive for you, then we can use the Potent Superior Sharpening Stone instead. For the build, we will use explosives 3, 1, 3, and then arms 3, 3, 2, and mechanist 1, 3, 1. For the utilities, we are using the healing signet with shift and force signets, and then also the elite overclock signet, and we are using throw mine as one of our utilities. You will find a link for the build below in the comment and description, and later in the video I will also show you other options we can have based on the situation. For the rotation, we will divide it into two parts. We will divide it into your own weapon and utility skills, and then we will also divide it into the mechanist skills. So for you, the skills we will use will be elite skill, throw mine, and then 3 and 4 from mace pistol, and that's basically it. For the mechanist, if you want to make things very simple, just make sure you have all of them set to auto attack. You can do that by control and then right click. This will make it auto attack. If it's an auto attack, the mech will use those skills anytime it's available. This means you will not have to worry about your F1, F2 or F3 skills at any point. Also keep in mind that the elite skill have 90 seconds cooldown, so basically you are going to use it only 2 or 3 times in the entire fight, which basically means that your rotation is 3 buttons, 3, 4 and throw mine. If that was a little too much for you and you want even less skills, then we can replace the throw mine and we can put the signet instead, superconducting signet, and we will leave it on passive. We will not use it, which means our rotation becomes only skill number 3 and 4. I have tested this myself, and don't worry, the difference in the numbers and the difference in the damage was not huge. So if you want to simplify things and you want to just use a superconducting signet instead of the throw mine, you will not lose tons of DPS. Something very important to factor in when we are talking about the numbers for this build will be confusion, because this is a condition that will do more damage when the enemies use skill. And so while we are testing together now on the golem, it will not use any skills, but in an actual fight they will, which means your confusion will do even more damage. I will show you the rotation a couple of times now, while having all the mechanist skills be on auto attack. And that's basically it. And then repeat all of that whenever it's on cooldown. And if you want to make things even more simpler and you just want to use those 2 skills, then we are going to have the superconducting signet, and the rotation in that case becomes elite signet, and then just 3 on 4 whenever it's on cooldown. And that's it. At the end of the video, I will show you the full rotation with all the numbers and such. And if you will use your rifle, everything will be the same, except you will use rifle 2 and 3. You will still spam your throw mine and your elite whenever they are of cooldown. Now let's start talking about the different options we can use. The first one is the rifle. Rifle will only be used in situations where you will need a lot of range or when there is a lot of mobility. So for example, in a fight like Whisper of Jormag or Dragon Storm, where there is a lot of movement from the bosses. You will also use it most of the time in fractals, at least until you get the last boss. But once you have a fight where the boss is going to be stationary, then mace pistol is going to be your preferable and main weapon. Another change I like to do for the same situations is to use explosive temper trait instead. This trait is more reliable in situations where there is a lot of movement. The third utility skill here can be many things. For example, if you need stun break or stability, we can use Elixir U. If you need some Condy cleanses, we can have Elixir C. And if you needed more CCs, then Personal Battering Ram is a perfect choice. Throw Mine is also very good for bone removal. It's not just for DPS. So any fight that requires bone removal, like Veil Guardian for example, Throw Mine can be very good at it. Barrier Signet is very useful for reflects and any other situation you may need a little bit more sustain. because it will give you and the party a lot of barrier. This build should work fine most of the time in fractals, even in tier 4s and CMs. But sometimes, based on your experience level and the group experience level, you may start having issues with sustain. So if that happened, there are a few options we can change. We can use barrier signet, as I mentioned earlier, for more sustain. We can also use the oysters with cocktail sauce, which will reduce the damage by further 10%. And if also that was not enough, then we're going to remove firearms and we're going to put alchemy, and we will make it 2, 2, 3. I will now leave you with some footage for the full rotation with numbers and everything. If we have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments below, and I hope you enjoy this build when you try it. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next guide.